I want to start with something uncomfortable. We've started calling everything burnout. You're tired? Burnout? You don't feel inspired? Burnout? You're irritated with your partner? Burnout? You slept 4 hours for 3 nights? Burnout. When we label everything the same way, we lose precision. And when we lose precision, we start treating the wrong problem. If you misname your state, you'll build the wrong solution, and then you'll conclude that nothing works. So, in this video, I'm going to separate two different experiences that often get mixed together. Exhaustion, when your nervous system is depleted. Burnout, when you've lost emotional engagement with something that used to matter. They can overlap, but they're not the same. And the difference determines what will actually help you. Exhaustion isn't laziness. It's not weakness. It's not lack of discipline. It's when your system genuinely can't keep up anymore. It often looks like this: brain fog, low frustration tolerance. You wake up tired even after sleeping. Small tasks feel disproportionately heavy. You either feel emotionally flat or everything irritates you. The key word here is capacity. You may still care about your work, you may still love your family, you may still have goals, but your nervous system is overloaded. Fatigue goes away with rest. Exhaustion doesn't, because it's cumulative. It builds over months, sometimes years. Chronic stress, poor sleep, constant hyperresponsibility. No real recovery periods. Living in, I'll deal with it later. The body always keeps track, even if your mind ignores it. And this is important. When someone is exhausted, the solution is not find your purpose. The solution starts with physiological stabilization. If the system is depleted, meaning making won't fix it. Now let's talk about burnout. Burnout is not about capacity. It's about disengagement. You can function, you can perform, you can even look successful from the outside. But inside, something has gone quiet. The tasks that used to feel meaningful now feel mechanical. The conversations feel repetitive. The goals don't light you up anymore. One important marker: burnout is often context specific. You might feel fine with friends. You might enjoy hobbies. You might feel energized in certain environments. But when it comes to that particular job, role, or dynamic, you shut down. That's not necessarily depression. That's often misalignment. And here's the difficult part: burnout sometimes means you've outgrown something. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just developmentally. And if you keep forcing yourself into a context that no longer fits, you'll eventually slide from burnout into exhaustion. Here's something practical. Ask yourself, if I had 1 week of real rest, proper sleep, no pressure, low stimulation, would I feel significantly better? If the answer is yes, you're likely dealing with exhaustion. If the answer is no, and the thought of returning to that environment still feels heavy, that's closer to burnout. Another question: do I have energy for things I enjoy? If you have no energy for anything at all, that suggests systemic depletion. If you have energy, just not for that one domain, that suggests disengagement. And finally, is this I can't, or is it I don't want to? I can't usually points to exhaustion. I don't want to often points to burnout. It's a subtle difference, but it changes everything. The most common mistake. Here's what I see all the time: exhausted people try to reinvent their lives, burned out people book vacations. Both approaches miss the mark. If you're exhausted and you try to force transformation, you'll crash harder, because you're asking a depleted system to generate motivation. If you're burned out and you only rest, you'll feel slightly better for a few days. And then the emotional deadness returns. Because rest doesn't fix misalignment. So the first step isn't do more. It's clarify what you're actually dealing with. If it's exhaustion, stabilize sleep, reduce unnecessary stimulation, protect recovery time, check basic health markers if needed, lower output temporarily. If it's burnout, Identify what specifically feels empty. Clarify where you've lost influence or growth. Evaluate whether this is a temporary plateau or a structural mismatch. Precision saves time. Guessing wastes it. If it's exhaustion, what actually helps? When the nervous system is overloaded, you don't need inspiration. You need regulation. That means sleep as non negotiable, not productivity sleep, not I'll catch up later. Real, consistent, protected sleep. Lower cognitive load. Constant multitasking and hypervigilance keep the system activated. Even if you're just scrolling, you're not resting. Reduce unnecessary stress inputs. News cycles, conflict heavy conversations, constant notifications. They drain more than people realize. Medical screening when appropriate. Iron levels, thyroid function, vitamin deficiencies, hormonal shifts. These don't cause every problem, but they can intensify symptoms. Exhaustion requires simplicity. You stabilize first. You reflect later. If it's burnout, the harder conversation. Burnout requires honesty. Sometimes the honest sentence sounds like, I don't respect this anymore. I'm performing, but I'm not growing. I'm staying because it's safe, not because it fits. I've changed, and this hasn't. Burnout often lives where autonomy is low and obligation is high. So the work becomes, where have I lost agency? What part of this role no longer reflects who I am? What am I tolerating that slowly drains my self-respect? You don't always need to quit. Sometimes you need a role shift, a boundary, a new challenge within the same structure, or a strategic exit plan instead of emotional escape. But staying unconsciously is what deepens the damage. Here's the final point. You're not broken, but you might be misreading your state. Exhaustion asks for recovery. Burnout asks for recalibration. If you respond correctly, your system stabilizes. If you respond incorrectly, frustration compounds. Clarity is not dramatic, it's clinical, and it changes outcomes. If this helped you see your situation more clearly, subscribe to the channel. I talk about anxiety, burnout, nervous system regulation, and the psychological mechanisms behind what we experience, without exaggeration and without shortcuts. If you want grounded, practical conversations about mental health, stay here.